The topic is the rise of authoritarianism, populism in Europe, and the challenges this poses to liberal democracy. And in my intervention here, I made a case reminding that actually authoritarianism in Europe is not that new, and this backlash has not really started with in recent years, with the accession of former communist regimes and the migration crisis, etc. And rather, I argued that actually an authoritarian regime has been a part of the post-war international political order and the European order from the outset, and that is Turkey. Turkey is a founding member of the United Nations. It joined the Council of Europe right after it was established, ratified the European Convention on Human Rights in 1954, and is actually one of the drafters of this convention and has been associated with the EU in some form since the 1960s. So it is actually interesting, paradoxically, one of the constituting powers of the European legal order as we speak is an authoritarian regime. And I discussed how Turkey has never been a democracy, even during those times where it was considered to be. And I show this based on its political and legal regime, and basically based on my upcoming book on which is titled Limits of Transnational Justice, the European Court of Human Rights and Turkey's Kurdish Conflict. I discussed the sort of limits of supranational oversight by a human rights court of authoritarian regimes which are engaged in state violence against their minorities. So I take Turkey as a case study. And what I'm showing here is just, part of the story is, of course, Turkey, obviously, it's a non-compliant state. It has its human rights problems that we know about, owing to its own domestic, sort of sociological, political, historical factors. But there's also the flip side of the coin, which really has not received the attention it deserves. And the question there is, what is the responsibility and role of the European institutions, and more specifically the European Court of Human Rights, in this outcome? Has the court really made full use of its jurisprudential power, the tools it has in exercising its jurisdiction on Turkey? And my conclusion is that it has not. The other and the main reason really, in my belief, is that the assumption that the court has acted with, and that European institutions in generally do, and European governments, that Turkey is a democratic country. So it really has always treated Turkey as a democracy, and applied its tools and doctrines in accordance, whereas it should have, I argue, treated it as an authoritarian regime whose constitutions and laws have always been authoritarian. And Turkey does matter very much because it has set a bad precedent for other countries that have, of course, followed suit in the Council of Europe system, such as Russia and Hungary.